So what we're going to do, you'll be delighted to know that this is going to be shorter than, well, I say that, they're always a bit longer than I have to be, but we'll try and keep it short as possible. We just want to talk about Christmas 2021 and just some thoughts and feelings that we have for adult hospice Christmas campaigns this year. I'll try and talk for sort of no more than 30 minutes, and then we'll have a Q&A session afterwards. If the stuff that you're thinking of and, oh, hang on a minute, what about this? Then if you could use the chat function on Zoom, which you'll find at the bottom of the screen, please, that'd be great. And our team, Lucy from our team, will pick those up and we'll have those. But we'll have, what I'd like to think is we're able to have a conversation and get some inspiration ideas from you guys as well about stuff that you're doing. We don't know everything, we know what we know. There's lots of stuff that you know as well. Right, so I shall crack on with this. Everyone see that? Carla, I'm looking at you. Can you see that okay? Yeah, good, right. So, GDPR, you'll be, of course, thrilled to know that we take GDPR and data protection very, very seriously. So this is our little page to let you know that you are being recorded, and we will release this recording, this webinar, as a video on YouTube and our website after we finish today. So let us know if you've got any concerns, you've got any questions about that, please. And what we're going to be talking about is just thoughts. We're going to be thinking about the 5 key things that we always focus on. So what about audience? What do we think about who we're speaking to this Christmas? What is our proposition? What's different about this year? And I've got some thoughts and some suggestions on that. How do we communicate? What media we use? What kind of timescales are we looking at, fitting around everything else? And what does Christmas look like this year? So the first of those is just looking back to what happened in 2020. Really different situation for many hospices. Absolutely fascinating. Some of the hospices that we've been supporting effectively shut down fundraising at some point, particularly at the end of 2020. Others kept going but moved everything digitally and kept that communication going. So a lot of different situations for you guys, I know. But if we think back to Christmas last year, the lockdown came back in, fundraising had effectively stopped. And Light Up a Life went online for everyone. So Lights took a lot of the energy and a lot of the effort for everyone last year, and we're really aware of that. And also, Christmas came after quite a lot of emergency and resilient campaigns. There were a lot of cash asks out there, a lot of people looking for to sending out appeals that they wouldn't normally send out to their audiences. And so when Christmas came around, actually, Christmas was really quiet. As far as we could see last year, a lot of hospices pulled their Christmas fundraising campaigns because it was too much. It was too fast to react to what was happening in the world, and so a lot of hospices simply went, okay, we just can't deal with that. Some of it went online, but very few, I think, Christmas campaigns and appeals went out last year. Just one of the Christmas campaigns that we delivered last year from Eleanor. Hi to anyone from Eleanor that's here. And this was just an example of a really simple but direct and focused Christmas campaign that we delivered. This is Eleanor down in Kent. And again, really simple message: help our nurses provide comfort and care to patients in the community. So obviously the hospice was shut to anything other than emergency care. And so the focus on the campaign was about reaching out to the community, because that's where that support was needed. And a very simple graphic device, which was, as you can see on the right hand side of the screen, so that kind of snow globe, people were asked to send a message of love and support back to the hospice. And that was extremely successful, despite the fact that a number of campaigns had been delivered. So for Eleanor had an emergency campaign and a resilience campaign and Lights as well. And yet Christmas was still extremely successful because the message was right, the message was relevant, it was up to date. And so there's just a simple example of how we approach Christmas for everyone. If everyone can mute, please, I'm really grateful. Thank you. So 2021, what do we think 2021 is going to look like? First thing we want to think about is audience. And for those of you who've worked with us, you know that we always start with audience. And if you don't know this already, apologies if you do, we have built over the last 15 years an adult hospice data model where we now have almost 70 adult hospice anonymous versions of adult hospice databases all smushed together. And it means that when we see a brand new hospice, we can look at that data set and understand the likely propensity to give of that data set based on 15 years of experience of delivering lots and lots of appeals. So that data model has been absolutely crucial for us, not necessarily in predicting exactly how much money is going to come in, because in this pandemic it's been really, really difficult. We haven't understood and the rules have changed. But what's been stunningly accurate is identifying that donor pyramid, is identifying the 20% of donors who are going to give the 80% of the income. We offer that a database analysis to every adult UK hospice free once. If you haven't had yours yet, please come and talk to us about it. There's no obligation, and I guarantee you will find it interesting, because we've yet to have we've spoken to over 100 hospices. We've looked at over 100 hospice data sets now, and there's always something interesting and some challenges for the team that comes back from us being able to look at the data independently from our perspective. And one of the things that we know from the last year is that lapse reactivation has been extremely successful. So there has been an issue with, particularly after GDPR and privacy policies being implemented, in some cases privacy policies being foisted on the fundraising team without consent, is that there are some fantastic supporters that we haven't been able to communicate with because a rule's been put in place. And that rule might have seemed fine when everything was great, when GDPR came in, but you know what? In a pandemic, or when the roof's on fire, we need to get out there and talk to everybody. And these rules often have been preventing us. So there's been a number of situations where we've been able to help hospices to change, to develop, to retract some of the more challenging policy decisions that have been made on data usage. And where that's been possible, we've been able to go and reactivate a really significant number of lapsed supporters. But what we're doing is we're focusing on those supporters with the higher values. Yeah. So the conversation that I will have every single time when we look at a hospice database where there's a cutoff. So let's say you have a 3-year cutoff. If you've given money in the last 3 years, you're in. If you haven't given money in the last 3 years, you're out. In every single data set we see, because we look at the whole thing without GDPR restrictions, every single data set, I'll be able to find the donor who gave £5 35 months ago once. And that donor is going to get into the next mailing because they fall into that category. But I'll also be able to find the donor who hasn't given for 37 months now, but they've given 20 grand over a 20-year period, and they're a fanatical, passionate supporter of the hospice. But because we've got this thing, they're not going to go into the appeal. And the likely return investment for that first individual is practically zero, and for the second individual is extremely high. And as long as there is the opportunity to talk to people and to have that conversation with them, you can go back a long way. So my favorite, sorry, I'm just going to get some water while I'm saying this. My favorite privacy statement is Dogs Trust, if you've ever seen that. So Dogs Trust, their privacy statement says we're allowed to speak to you for up to 16 years after your last contribution. And that's because the average lifespan of a dog that we look after is 16 years. So obviously that makes no logical sense whatsoever, but you know what, it kind of works, and that's fine, and everyone just accepts it. So our privacy policies don't have to be that restrictive. So the first thing that we will be looking at, certainly for Christmas, is let's not assume that just because someone hasn't given for a while does not mean that they're not interested in giving now. This is a different, new, challenging situation and an opportunity for people to engage in a way they haven't been asked to engage with before. So all the evidence is, and again, by looking at the data, we can give you examples of this in your own data sets. There are individuals on your database who will support you if you reach out to them in the right way as part of a Christmas campaign. But I know for many of you, there will be some logical and logistical and some structural challenges to that. And again, we can help with that. Cold recruitment is also a real possibility this year. So hospices are blessed with the fact that you don't have to do a lot of cold donor recruitment, because people just turn up every day going, here's some money and thank you for the amazing care you gave to my loved one. But we know that when you receive an IMO donation, for example, you might have the name and address of that person who happened to be the one on writing the check, but all the other people that are grateful to the hospice for the care just didn't get on the database because they weren't the ones that sent the check in. So there is an opportunity. We have touched the lives in the hospice community, we've touched the lives of many, many, many more local people that happen to be on our database. So how do you reach out and get to them? Well, it's actually cold recruitment. So there has been some significant success over the last year in reaching out to communities and saying, we're a local hospice, we're providing the care, come and engage, come and take part. And I think that Christmas provides a significant opportunity this year if it's done in the right way. Yeah, and we'll talk about the proposition in a sec. The other point there is high net worth and major donors. A lot of conversations have just stopped over the last, because we haven't been able to see people, because we associate major donor and high net worth stuff with face-to-face and inviting them into meetings and, you know, giving them a glass of sherry half an hour before Light of a Life starts or whatever, you know. We haven't had those face-to-face opportunities, and so quite often those significant donors just haven't been approached because we've not been able to approach them in the way that we're used to. This is an opportunity. We have to reach out to those audiences, but again, the proposition has to be right. So what's the narrative? What's the problem solution? What's the need that we can go and have a discussion with high net worth people? And if we can't have face-to-face meetings, okay, let's reach out and communicate with them through direct marketing techniques, but make them appropriate. You know, so quite often in an appeal, we'll have a high value or major donor segment, and the physical creative will change. It'll break out. It'll become less direct mail. It'll become much more personal, handwork, life stamps, proper envelopes, all that kind of stuff to get that in front of that audience the right way. Again, we can look and talk to you about how to achieve that. Eventers and community fundraisers as well. So obviously, just nothing's been happening for the whole of the year. Now, there is, I'm sure you're looking at your own programs, and I'm sure they'll all go after the 19th of July now. There's a lot of stuff that's going to start kicking in, and of course everyone's going to be doing that. But there's a significant group of people they might have been eventers or community fundraisers in the past, but they might not be able to or would feel comfortable about getting back involved in mass participation stuff, but they still love the hospice because you looked after someone they really care about. So how do you offer that opportunity engagement? So again, as part of that cold recruitment, people that might not normally respond to an appeal, there is a potential for them to respond this Christmas rather than just re-engaging with events and community. But we've got to give them those options. If the only option we give to past eventers and past community fundraisers is more of the stuff they've done before, if they're not able to do that, then they'll say no, and they won't be. You're not giving them a doorway to walk through for support. So as part of a Christmas campaign, I'd like to think that we can reach out to that wider audience as well, and community and corporate groups as well. I think it's really important that the hospice is able to, as that central body, it's that center of the community. I often describe hospices, if the community is there, the hospice is not this bubble outside. We're right smack in the middle. And so this is a community organization looking after local people, funded by local people, and therefore the community and corporate groups, particularly that may have been really strong engagers in pre-pandemic, may not be able to come back in this year and do what they did before. And certainly company and corporate donations are going to be extremely challenging this year. We know that. But I think there's still a huge opportunity to allow these groups and particularly companies to share, to be part of that experience. Even if they can't give us any money this year, there's an opportunity for them to be part of that hospice Christmas story. Yeah. Okay, this is the real focus. So that after we think about audience, so once we've looked at the data set, we've identified who we're speaking to, we understand their previous donation history, if they're a Light Up a Life or an in memoriam donor, or a raffler, or a home money box, or whatever it is, there's a different relationship there, and we'll refer to that when we speak to them. But the proposition is absolutely key. Why do we need their support? And I would argue that this Christmas is the opportunity to deliver a stronger, more passionate, more dynamic, more urgent fundraising proposition than we've had in any Christmas before, because this is the Christmas that comes after the one that everyone missed. Yeah, and so you can imagine how all the big national companies are going to be setting up their Christmas advertising campaigns. You know how nuts the supermarkets go, and you know the John Lewis Christmas advert, etc. Just imagine what they're already working on for this year, because it's going to go massive. Well, this is an opportunity for us to talk about how that affects the people that you guys are looking after. So while there is an opportunity to have the double Christmas, as I've been calling it, the fantastic Christmas because we missed out on last year, I think we're all looking forward to, right, how big are we going to go and how much fun are we going to have? And we're going to see our loved ones. There is still an audience that will not have that opportunity because they're living with a life-limiting condition. They won't be able to engage. Some people will still be self-isolating or will not feel comfortable about being in a house with lots of people, or simply be on their own. So there is a real example and a story of need, of problem and solution, because it's you and your staff that are going to be delivering that Christmas experience to that audience and to those beneficiaries in need this year. And the way to do that, of course, is to tell examples, is to give examples, tell stories. So the stories that I'm really interested in, we're already speaking to people, we're already interviewing patients and nurses and family members about their experiences and saying, right, what happened? How did it feel? And I think the two things that are really resonant for me is, one, the family describing the incredible effort that the hospice nursing team and clinical team put in to enable some element of Christmas, some magic, some positivity in the midst of that extraordinarily awful situation last Christmas. But even despite that, we still have positive memories of last Christmas. There's something that we grab onto. There's something that we hold onto from last Christmas. But also it's the patient looking at themselves, looking forward to re-engaging with hospice, re-engaging with wellbeing services or day hospice or community care, and looking forward to having that Christmas experience supported by the hospice this year. Again, there are human stories we can tell here that will drive income, drive donations. So it's the first Christmas post-pandemic. And nurses as well, the one thing we learned really strongly, did we not, that actually our nursing colleagues are also part of the fundraising ask here. So this is not, and I really feel strongly about this, this is not simply another Christmas. It's not simply, oh, Christmas, oh, tinsel and reindeers and Christmas dinners for everyone. Isn't that lovely? Please can we have your support? This is different because there is a huge clinical challenge already at the doorstep of every hospice, and it's going to get more challenging over the next couple of years as patients who haven't accessed primary care, who haven't had the tests over the last 18 months. We already know that many more people are now presenting at stage 3 or stage 4 with cancer diagnosis, for example, or COPD or heart conditions that haven't had the opportunity for that long pathway of well-being supporting to live with a life-limited condition until end of life. They're arriving needing end-of-life care. And that means there's an incredible pressure on your clinical teams and on your nursing colleagues who are also shattered and exhausted and didn't have Christmas last year. So what about them, you know? So part of, for me, the fundraising message is about the Christmas experience that we deliver to the entire hospice family. And that's about patients, that's about family members, but it's also about the team as well. And the people that we're communicating with for fundraising, their job, their opportunity is to be part of that family that makes that experience the best it possibly can be for everybody. And that's why we need to tell those stories, to give that example. When you give us money, look at what we do with it, look at the lives we change with that. Yeah. And I think it's also hugely important that we say thank you in the right way. No form thank you letters. Something passionate, something human, something real from someone who really matters. So from a patient, from a family member, from a nurse. And we've always encouraged, when we've delivered Christmas appeals for the last 15 years, we've always encouraged the setting up of the email or the social media message going out on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, or both preferably, from the nursing team. You know, I love a big picture of nurses in silly earrings and antlers and all that kind of thing going out on Christmas Day.
All in place.
Could everyone mute, please? That'd be helpful for me. Thank you. So that image of the care that we asked you to help pay for, look at what you've achieved. Look at this experience that we're now delivering thanks to your generosity. This is what it looks like. Thank you. And so we need to think about planning that. And maybe for some teams, they've been able to literally assign a nurse who's gone, yeah, brilliant, I'll do that. And then I'll send it out on social media. Others, we need to have the photo taken before and then schedule it a few days before. But let's give them that feeling. Let's tell them how important their supporters are. Yeah. And that last point there are some key audience members. Let's allow everyone to feel the positivity and the engagement with their local hospice, even if they can't afford to give us money this year, because we know how bloody tough it's been for everybody. So let's not make the engagement with Christmas conditional entirely on being able to fundraise. Yeah, let's give them an opportunity to engage, to be part of that feel, even if they can't give us money this year. Looking at media, just quickly, direct mail has been extraordinarily successful, ridiculously so, based on our modelling of a typical appeal that we would use pre-pandemic. We've seen 4, 5, 6 times the level of response. I think our least successful emergency resilience appeal to a very small hospice brought in just under £50,000. The most successful to a hospice with around 6,000 individuals that we wrote to brought in nearly £250,000. It's been an astonishing example of the fact that yes, we need to engage in social media. Yes, we need to make sure that our messages are consistent and they work across the whole campaign, across all media. But actually, to get response, we need to speak to people directly. We need to talk to them as one human being talking to another. And so all the stuff that we've done over the last 18 months, everything has been about from someone that's interesting, from someone that's resonant. It's a nurse, it's the head of bereavement services, it's a wellbeing care coordinator, it's a family member, it's a patient, talking about themselves as people, talking about their experience, sharing that information with the reader and asking that reader to then contribute to allow more experiences like that to happen. Yeah, and that's where the success comes from. But delivering that through direct mail, our audiences are largely still older, Dorothy, Nona, baby boom generation. They're not, a lot of people are not seeing social. I know that quite a few hospices delivered emergency resilience appeals just online and did really well. And of course, absolutely brilliant, because that fundraising message was out there. But what we absolutely know from the work that we've done and from the partnership that we've had with many hospices is that there is a significant audience out there that will just not see that. They won't see the Facebook, they won't see the Instagram post, they won't see the tweets, and they won't go to the website. But they will respond to a letter through their letterbox that talks to them about the reality of the hospice situation and asks them for money. And so that's why direct mail has to be part of that communication, because roughly we think about 60% of incomes coming in either in an envelope or response to an envelope. We always put digital response options in a direct mail pack, and about 10% of responses come back digitally in response to the direct mail pack. Brilliant. But still 50% of that income is coming back in the envelope that we give them and with the form. And just briefly talking about timing, we know that Christmas has got to work with your other stuff. And we know how tough that is, in that, as I said, I think that there's almost a temptation to try and get a year and a half's worth of fundraising done in the next 4 months. And I recognize, how tough that is. But also, you've got Lights as well. Lights is absolutely fascinating. We're already working on a number of Lights campaign, and we're having a Light Up a Life panel webinar in a couple of weeks' time. Quite a few hospices are bringing back Lights, full beams, in person, 2,000 people in a car park or whatever it might be. Others are only staying digital still this year. They've already taken that decision. Most are going with a hybrid model. So again, don't know what your individual situation is, but it's really tempting that Light Up a Life just dominates. And we've seen this quite a lot of time. The barrier quite often to a Christmas fundraising campaign is, oh, we couldn't possibly think about that because we've got Lights going on. Yeah, but Lights lands, goes out in September, early October, is delivered usually end November, early December. The later the better usually for Lights. But just because Lights is going on time after time after time, and we've actually engaged with Lights and then Christmas as well, by making sure there is a flow, by making sure we talk to people about their Lights engagement involvement as part of the conversation about Christmas, there is still a significant audience that won't respond to Lights because that's a remembrance thing, and then that's not for them. But they will respond to Christmas because that's an altruistic giving thing, and they're interested in doing that. But there is also a very significant number, there's a little core within your database that will respond very strongly to Lights, and then they'll give again at Christmas. And the two are so different. There are quite a few hospices that also have the Christmas raffle in there. So it's not unknown to have Lights raffle, Christmas. And that seems really congested to have 3 big things going out within, let's say, 7 weeks of each other. But as long as that communication flow is delivered properly, as long as we talk to people about the journey they're on, they will understand and they will respond, and there won't be a flood of complaints saying you're over-mailing me. We tend to get hooked up in the stuff that we send out because we see it all the time. We expect our supporters to see it, to have seen it all the time. Don't forget, particularly at Christmas, how many messages are our supporters going to see this Christmas from companies, from charities. Our one Christmas message is not going to be swamped by that. They're not going to feel overwhelmed by the fact that we've sent them a message, but because they are part of our family, we should be able to get their attention where other charities and other businesses may not be able to. So in terms with the timing for Christmas, we prefer the 1st or 2nd week of November. It's that day after. The day after, it's okay. You know, that moment when you walk into the supermarket and suddenly they've got, you know, Christmas cards and tinsel, and you think, oh, it's Christmas already. And it's usually the day after Halloween, isn't it? Because they get rid of the Halloween stuff. There's that. I want appeals, in my view, to land on the first day when people think, yeah, actually, it's okay to start thinking about Christmas. I think that could well be earlier this year. I think people are going to start getting excited about Christmas much earlier than normal because we missed out on last year. But I want it to land early enough to beat everyone else's Christmas appeal. And also, if we're asking for engagement, if we're asking them to not just to give money, but also to be part of that family and to do something human about how we interact and engage, we need to give them enough time to get that back so that we can then do the thing or use their message or put a display up or whatever it's going to be. So we need to have that, think about that timing carefully. But for me, Christmas always continues up to Christmas Day and beyond. So again, those messages back from the team, the message back from the ward, the images, the photos, keep that narrative going. I'm also very keen that where possible, you have a Christmas donation as an option on the website. That I've worked with a number of hospices and charities who see quite a spike in purchases of Christmas gifts on Christmas Day and Boxing Day, because suddenly, oh, Auntie Flo's coming around for Boxing Day, we haven't got her anything. Right, I know what we'll do, we'll go online. So having that virtual gift opportunity, I think, is really important this year as well. Oh, and the last point is, sorry, but yeah, start now. We're already beginning and planning Christmas campaigns right now. We're already starting to interview and talk. And to be honest, the best Christmas campaigns are the ones that we've actually sat down with the team in January from the following year, because by the time you get to this time, who remembers what they were doing or where they were or what their name was last Christmas? You know, it's a million miles away. So actually getting back in and talking to the care team in January as a bit of a wash-up meeting, yeah, saying what happened, what were those moments, what was the thing. So quite often the question I'll ask a nurse is, tell me about what was the thing that made you go boom, 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 you know, that really made you go. I remember a really poignant one. I spoke to this is St Peter's in Bristol, if you're here, hello, and this was quite a few years ago, and spoke to Lynn, who was their matron. And she'd been at the hospice for 35 years. And I said to her, what was this was a few years ago, what was the thing that made you go? And she said, oh, we had this guy in who was in his mid-50s, and his daughter had moved to Australia and she'd had a baby, and he was in the hospice and he wanted to see her. But because we bought an iPad, we were able to set up a FaceTime call. This was when it was still quite new and a thing. And he was able to see his grandchild for the first time on Christmas Day. And that moment was enabled by the fact that we had fundraising. We put Wi-Fi in the hospice, and we were able to have a couple of iPads, and we were able to let him do that on Christmas Day. And she burst into tears, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." She said, "No, that's fine." But you know, it was a real moment for me, because if after 35 years of delivering, you know, palliative care to the community, if she can still feel emotional, then we can still get emotional, and we can transfer that emotion. That's our challenge as fundraisers, is it not? To transfer that passion, that emotion through a tweet, an email, you know, whatever it might be, a direct mail pack out to the reader, so that they get that, they understand the human connection, the emotion there. And we've all got this. I'm sure if every single one of you look at it and go, yeah, actually, we've got a really amazing story that's related to Christmas, a wedding, a family reunion, whatever it might be. There's something there that you can talk about, yeah. Right, creative. Just lastly, and very briefly, what do we think Christmas looks like this year? I'm a copywriter, so I'm going to put words first. imagery is important, but for hospice fundraising, it's the words. Quite often, and particularly during the pandemic, we've demonstrated that the appeals that have worked best, the ones that are strongest, are the ones where it is a written communication from one human to another. And those words are real and honest, and they are powerful, and all those words that we've got on the screen there. And that's because we're not trying to talk about how we feel about things. We're transferring that feel. We're transferring that experience and that narrative from someone who has been through or is going through hospice care, or has seen their loved one go through that process and has seen the benefit to their loved one and to them of the incredible care that nurses provide, or it's the narrative from the nurse themselves. And it's the ones that work strongest is often the simplest graphically, where there's not a lot of flourish, where there's not a lot of, sort of involving and folding and all that kind of stuff, and lots of images and cunning strap lines. It's simply about looking someone in the eye and saying, this is us, this is you, and this is the relationship we're hoping we can have. We're asking for something because there's a problem. You can be part of the solution. Let's tell you about that, and let's give you that feeling. And that I think it's really important. I want the donor, when they sign that check, to feel so good about themselves because they understand the moment of human change that gift is going to enable. Yeah. So there are some exceptional moments, like the iPad story, the guy, seeing his grandchild for the first time. It's not the clinical care. In every appeal I think we've ever done for hospices, we've never talked about in great detail about the incredible knowledge and experience of different opiates and the combination of different medications, etc. We've fundraised for some mad stuff over the last 15 years. I think my favorite was St Barnabas in Lincolnshire for an equipment appeal. One of the things we were asking for was acidic drain flasks to collect fluid on the floor by the bed. But you know what? Because we talked about not the flask, but actually the fact that we've got these special flasks means that patients don't have that horrible discomfort because we've got the right equipment for it. It was that human experience that we talked about. The thing that delivered that happened to be this bit of glass, but we've all got that. But again, at Christmas, it's about the nursing care, is it not? Yeah, we're asking people to pay for the nursing care that will be delivered on IPU by nurses who are exhausted and knackered and missing their own Christmases because they're going to turn up an hour early and they're going to go home an hour late on Christmas Day because they know that they're going to be able to go home and see their families at some point and their patients can't. So that's the narrative, and that's the kind of stories that we want to tell. Yeah. So the words and the way that we transfer that is absolutely crucial. But we have also got pictures. We have also got images of that care. We've got images of human contact and experience and dedication, and let's use those. And that's the challenge, I know, for this year. And that's our challenge about how we do that. The reason, if you remember all the way back at the beginning of this, we showed you that Eleanor campaign, that was cartoon style infographic. There was no imagery that we were able to use because everything was shut, and we weren't able to go and get images. So it's going to be a challenge this year, but there are still opportunities for us to show that incredible positivity and give that hope. This Christmas is going to be a really positive experience for everyone. Let's allow them to have that experience themselves. Okay, right, half an hour. I've done really well. Half an hour. Okay, I'm very proud of myself. We're going to have some Q&A in a second. Just to let you know that in a couple of weeks' time, myself and I think 3 of our long-standing friends in the hospice movement are going to be hosting a Light Up Life panel where we're just going to talk through what do we think is going to happen this year, and invite everyone to share their own experiences and share their own possibilities and opportunities. I think lights is really important this year again. So I think that in 2 weeks' time, that's an opportunity for everyone to kind of share experience and knowledge and opportunity, but also to ask some questions of some hospice fundraisers who've been delivered many lights between them. So I hope that's going to be useful for you. Finally, just to say that this is us. Pebblebeach is here to deliver the stuff that you can't deliver yourself. I have absolutely no problem at all with a hospice coming to us, asking for advice and support, asking us to run the data model for them and talk about the data, and then they go off and deliver a stunningly brilliant Christmas campaign that brings in shed loads of money. Absolutely fantastic, go for it, and please get in touch and say hi. We are here where you don't have the knowledge or the experience or the resource particularly to make that happen. So I would hope, and I strongly believe that the aspiration this year should be, let's deliver the best, the strongest, the most passionate, the most successful Christmas fundraising campaign that we've ever seen this year, because there's an opportunity to reach out and go, guys, we're your local hospice, it's Christmas, let's be part of this together. Yeah. But I don't want to see any hospice not achieving that because they haven't got the ability to do that in-house. That's what we exist for. And we can come in and we can deliver all of it, or we can come in and deliver part of it. So if it's just data analysis and thought you need, we can do that. If it's just copywriting, we can help with that, or we can do the whole thing. And we can also, of course, give you the benefit of the experience that we've got for working with almost 100 hospices now for the last 15 years. So we're here as friends. Come and talk to us. Don't be shy. No obligation. You can come and ask us the question. Okay. Right, enough sales pitch. That's us. Thank you very much for showing up to this. I hope that was useful for you. And now we're going to, everyone can unmute now. So let's have a party. Come on. So everyone say hi to everybody. And I'd like to know whether there's questions that we've got that people want to ask.
I'll ask one, Ash, if that's all right.
Go for it. I'm just going to. I'm trying to find out how do I get that there. It's not letting me stop share. Ah, there it is. Stop share. There you go. Hello.
Hello.
Look at all of you beautiful people. Hello. Go for it.
So I was going to ask you, your presentation has been very much that Christmas is going to be back to what it was in 2019. It's very hopeful, which is wonderful. Yeah. However, that might not be the case. Any thoughts on what it might look like if we do go into another lockdown or anything?
Yeah, I know.
The effect that might have on a Christmas campaign.
Do you know what? This is exactly the conversation. So 2 weeks ago, I was hosting a similar session for children's hospices, and there was an experience last year where the team had planned this amazing Christmas experience for the kids, and that was the whole appeal was based on that, and it went out, and the appeal did brilliantly, and 2 weeks before Christmas, it was pulled because COVID. Yeah, so there is a realistic challenge there. Yeah, and I think there is a caveat that says, okay, look, if this doesn't happen, I don't believe that anyone would have an objection for us reaching out and saying, this is what we hope to deliver. And in terms of fundraising need, we're asking for money to pay for the care that's being delivered, because it is the care that enables these moments of engagement and human contact, etc., that we're talking about. And that fundraising need is still there. Yeah, that nursing care still needs to be paid for. So I don't think there's any issue in terms of charity commission or anything like that saying fundraising under false pretenses. Absolutely not. This is what we hope to deliver, even if, God forbid, we go into another lockdown. But if that was to happen, that your nursing colleagues are still going to be working beyond their contracted hours to deliver the best possible experience they can for their patients and families. And we all know that because we've seen it for the last 18 months. So the hope, I think, and again, the aspiration for us is that we can say, this is what we're hoping to deliver, that if conditions allowing, look at the magic experience we can deliver. But I'm certainly not saying, let's paint a picture of 100 people turning up and there's going to be all the choirs coming in and all that, the stuff that we like to talk about at Christmas. Maybe that can't happen, but whatever the situation is, our clinical teams, our nurses will be delivering absolutely the very most that they can. And that's still an opportunity. And there is still an opportunity for engagement. So if we're asking people, for example, to send messages in, we know that last year, a couple of hospices said we don't want to do that because we're worried about people sending in bits of cardboard and we can't clean them because we have that, there's still issues like that. So there's some realities of the world we've got to deal with. But me, I'm just a big, hopeful, passionate Hector. I just think that if we go out there with a message, I think we just have to go out there and say, guys, this could be magnificent. Let's offer that positivity, in my view. But yeah. Does that help?
Hiya, Ash. Hi there. Can I go?
Hey. Yes.
Carla here from Western Hospice Care.
Hello.
I'm kind of with you on the whole positivity thing. I think from my experience, in similar to yours, really, I think people are pretty much sick to death. I know I am of COVID. I absolutely had enough of it, and I'm kind of thinking that this Christmas, I sort of think more about the messaging will be about the recovery, because I'm pretty sure that this is going to match what the government's going to, isn't it lovely, even if you don't support football, isn't it great that, like, I can't stand football, but I was there cheering the other night, absolutely brilliant. So something a bit normal and something for us to like feel good about. And I think so I think to keep on dragging on about COVID, I mean, yes, I really hope we're not in the position then, but I think for our supporters that can have, like, I think they might turn away from it because it's too much and people are sick to death of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a challenge for us, isn't there, though? I think that there's a balance to be struck, in my view, because the one thing I was saying this last year about this time, when we were thinking about, right, what's the message for, because 2021 for most hospices, sorry if this is not you, by the way, but for most hospices, 2021 financially was okay, because we got the hospice, got the Hospice UK money and the fundraising, etc. Wasn't too bad. It's this year that's the problem, because that support isn't there again. Fundraising is still down. So I'm really happy with that message of positivity moving forward, etc., and an ambition to reach a higher goal. I think that's a long-term narrative, not just one appeal. I think that's our story that we go, because the plane that we're, the new horizon we're aiming for here is a new model of hospice care in almost every case, because we've all learned about digital. We've all learned that actually we can engage digitally and online as well as face-to-face. And how does that affect the way that we're able to reach out? And most hospices are reaching more people now because we've got these new tools to play with. So for me, there's a conversation there, particularly with the high net worth and the major donors, about this journey that we're on. And that journey's not, a one appeal.
At the start of the recovery, aren't we? And like you say,
it is.
Yeah, I mean, on our Christmas appeal last year, we did mention about, what we were already seeing, the negative impact from late diagnosis. So so that messaging was put in and the seed planted then, really.
Yeah.
And I think like the helping us to recover from this is quite a strong message, because like you say, like actually this year, although last year our Christmas appeal actually saved us from it. Because of our Christmas appeal, we ended up in the same financial position as what we budgeted for pre-COVID.
Cool.
And that's how, and I have to manage expectations because it did so well. But because I think it did so well, and we re-engaged with lapsed donors. The whole country was behind it then. And I'm kind of thinking, like, I'm not a defeatist by any way, shape or form, but I'm, this year's Christmas appeal is going to be something extraordinary. Extraordinary to get to the sort of giving levels that we experienced as a hospice last Christmas.
Absolutely right. And therefore the challenge, I think that the one note of caution is I really, really don't want a hospice to reach out and go, oh yeah, it's all fine now. Oh, isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely that we're out of lockdown and everything's good? We're back to normal. No. It is not fine. You're not back to normal. And there is, again, a good couple of years, or probably more, logically, until we get to a point where we can go, do you know what? It's okay. Financially, we're secure. Nurses are okay. The team's right. Everyone's caught up on their holiday, and we're back to reasonable patient numbers that we can manage. That's not a quick journey at all.
I don't think we should ever do that as fundraisers anyway. We always have to express a need, don't we?
Yeah, but you've never had an opportunity to more honestly reach out and go, guys, this is a problem. And have we not all become so aware of death and dying and the want and the need for family, togetherness, communication, and human contact? That's what hospice has been doing for 50 years, and we're going to continue to do that. But this next 2 years is going to be a bloody struggle. Get involved. Is my bit. And then, but again, we define that and we deliver that message in a way of positivity and opportunity, I think. Lucy, sorry, I know you've been. Is there anything on the chat that we need to talk about?
Just one light up a life question in the chat. For those planning to have a hybrid event, how many people are you planning to invite to your hospice gardens?
Interesting. Okay, so short answer is we're not. We can share that. If you turn up in 2 weeks' time, then that's exactly what we're going to be talking about with a panel So there's 3 heads of fundraising for different hospices that have all been around for many a year and delivered many lights. I can tell you from last 2 weeks ago, I think the answer is going to be hugely varied. So from our children's hospice conversation a couple of weeks ago, there's one children's hospice that are still not thinking about having fundraisers back in the building at the moment, because they're still really focused, really tight in lockdown. And then another hospice, which is almost a neighbouring children's hospice, are already planning a winter wonderland in the garden, where literally the whole public is going to be invited to come in and go down an alley of lights and all this kind of stuff, etc. So there's a huge difference that we're already seeing in people, and with lights as well. So I already know that some lights are going to be literally just virtual again. That's it. Others are back in person. Others are going to be a hybrid, etc., etc. So I really think it depends. Of course, it depends on your location. If you've got an outdoor location, that's going to be easier than indoors. The big question I think none of us know is how many people are going to turn up. You know, think about the demographic of those that we invite to lights. Yeah, how many of those are actually going to feel comfortable about being in a crowd? You know, I'm an old bugger now, you know, so I'm sort of wandering around going, I'm double jabbed and all that kind of thing. I'm still thinking, right, okay, hang on a minute, I don't want to go into that shop. But, you know, so how many of us are feeling like that, particularly if you've been through, you know, a care experience? I think we're going to find out, but there is a huge range, certainly. Lucy, anything else that we need to cover?
No, all good.
Okay. Anyone else want to give some of their own experiences or ask something? Lorraine?
Oh, sorry. I've got a question.
Sorry, Sally, I'll come to you after. Sorry, Sally, I'll come to you afterwards. Lorraine, hello.
Hi. It was just a question around timing, actually. So I know you said it's kind of okay to have kind of a raffle and everything. So we've got a raffle planned in September.
Yeah.
Light Up a Life mailing going in October, and kind of there'll be promotion for both of them, kind of, you know, up until Christmas. And I have put in a Christmas appeal, but I am just a bit nervous about kind of being multiple messages, and people will get all 3 mail-ins. Yeah. I just wanted to get your views on that, really.
I think it's again, I think it's fine as long as it's done in the right way. So again, experience from us, we found there was one hospice we began to work with, and in that Q3 there was, like, for them it was lights raffle Christmas, but their data segmentation approach was, let's go for lights first, brilliant, off we go. Whoever's left, right, who should we send a raffle to? That goes. And then whoever's left after that, that some of those can get Christmas. So lights did really well. Raffle was all right. Christmas bombed. Yeah. So, however, what we did is we again, looking at the data model, because our data model says what kind of supporter are you? What's the history of your giving, etc. What likelihood have you got of giving in the future? So we looked at the response files to each of those 3 campaigns and went, guys, actually, all the evidence is that it's the same responder file. So for the following year, lights was delivered to the lights audience. To all those people that should have received lights, they got lights. Then when the raffle went out, there were segments for, if they'd responded to lights, it said, oh, fantastic, thanks so much for your lights donation. This is a Christmas raffle. We were hoping you might be able to sell these tickets to people in your family, etc., knowing that the vast majority of people buy tickets themselves, of course, yeah. But there's also a message saying, oh, I hope you, by the way, haven't heard from you lights. Please make sure if you'd like to come, we'd love to see you, etc. Here's some raffle tickets, yeah. Then when you get to Christmas, it was a kind of an approach where if they'd responded to lights but not raffle, amazing, thank you for lights. This is Christmas, about providing an experience this Christmas for patients, as opposed to lights as, you know, remembrance, etc. If they responded to the raffle but not lights, oh my God, amazing, thank you, brilliant. Here's a Christmas appeal. If they gave to both, yeah, and this was the fun one, if they're given to both lights and raffle, the Christmas communication said, you've given to both of those, listen, we don't expect you to give again because you've already done 2 things, but we really want you to offer this chance to engage and to be part of the Christmas feel at the hospice. So here's the thing, if you can make a donation, of course, we'd love that, but we want to make sure you got the engagement opportunity, yeah? The strongest sell of responders to Christmas appeal were people who responded to lights and responded to raffle. And the reason for that, guys, if we're getting into data, sorry, data techie nerd alert here, right? We're getting into this. The reason for that, you know, you have this, the Dorothy donor that we've all heard about, and she has a basket of charities, yeah? And Dorothy supports an animal charity and a local and a hospice and an international charity and a, you know, whatever, yeah? There's a basket of charities. What we consistently find when we dig into hospice databases, and we have a kind of secondary and tertiary analysis model that we use, is when we look at those the 20%, and indeed the really strong percentages, we often find that something like what I think the first time we did this, we found that 33%, a third of all donations from individuals had been, over the whole history of time, had been given by less than 2.5% of the database. Yeah. So you've got your 80-20 rule in operation, but at the top of that pyramid, you've got some people who are absolutely passionate, and they are giving that basket of charitable giving, but they're giving it all to you. You will have people on your database telling you now who will be making donations. They've made IMO gifts, they turn up for Light Up a Life, they take part in community fundraising, they're engaged in events, they buy, they're a lottery member, and they buy raffle tickets as well. And that's because you looked after mum, and I'm never going to be able to say thank you. So of course, yeah. So as long as we have that honest relationship, yeah, with them, then we can give them that opportunity. So for me, right, you're never going to know unless you do it properly, are you? And again, but it's, I would have that, I would go for the 3, but I would want to feel that you've got the ability, in certainly the Christmas appeal, to speak to them about the giving that's happened in the last couple of months. And don't forget, it's 3 different types of gift. Light Up a Life is often considered as a ticket. You're giving me something, you're providing a service, literally, quite often. Okay, I'm happy to put some money in towards that. Raffle is a bit of fun. Might win something, but actually I don't mind playing the raffle, etc., because it's for the local hospice. Christmas is an altruistic gift for the benefit of others. Yeah, and people have different pots, people have different sort of mental pots. I'm sure we think about our own spending, of where we spend money, and so there's 3 different ways we're asking people to give. Yeah, so as long as that flow of communication is there, I think I'm entirely comfortable with it.
Yeah, I'll give it a go. Thank you.
Sally, sorry we cut you off.
No, that was fine. To be honest, that was pretty much the question that I was going to ask.
Okay.
We're a day hospice, so we're very different. That we don't have the patients in the bed and the snow in the bubbles, and our database is quite small. So we probably mail out to about 4,000 on Lights of Love. So part of it is getting the confidence from our senior leadership team that we can introduce a Christmas campaign.
Yeah.
But because our database is stagnant, what do you think about introducing a door drop campaign in line with the Christmas campaign to increase your local audience?
Yeah, so it's something that we've done a number of times before. It's certainly the cheapest way. So if you are creating a direct mail pack, as if we would create a direct mail pack for a campaign, then for agency costs and design costs, etc., it's very cheap to simply convert that over into a cold. Yeah, the language changes, you take out the personalization, etc., but pretty much it's the same stuff. Yeah. We quite often find we will use the door drop a couple of weeks later than the warm, and it acts as a reminder because there'll be some crossover. The 2 Venn diagrams will overlap. Yeah. In terms of how you would approach that, again, it starts from an understanding of audience. So our model, Sally, for you would be to look at the data and say, all right, who have you got and where are they? And what we would do is we have a demographic profile of who is likely to respond to a door drop within a particular postcode sector area. Yeah. So there's a score. And then we would map that against the penetration that you've got into each postcode sector already in your database. So you'll have some people that are real close to you in that local area, that they know you, they love you, the branding's up there, everyone's aware of you, and yet of course you can speak to them. Yeah, it might not be demographically, in terms of individual wealth, the best area, but they know you really well. There's probably going to be a really rich area on the outskirts where, yeah, there's loads of people, loads of money, but they haven't got a bloody clue who we are, so there's that kind of combination. So there's a bit of both there. Yeah, but it's certainly about, you have got to have that confidence to dip your toe in the water. We can give you, if you want to get in touch again, anyone wants to contact us, by the way, it's hello@Pebblebeach Fundraising. Just say hello and we'll come back and have a chat. We can give you experience and results from elsewhere about what's happened. It is a challenge, and a lot of senior leadership teams and trustees are horrified at the suggestion that actually you would invest in cold, knowing you're going to lose money, knowing that activity in itself is not going to raise money, but you're bringing donors in who will then go on and give more donations, and that's where you make your profit. If ever a hospice, an adult hospice, had an opportunity to reach out to the community, look them in the eye, grab them by the shirt and say, we need to talk to you about something, and this is serious, it's now, is it not? If it's either the best way, it's either the roof's burned down or on fire, that's a good excuse. We're building a brand new hospice, that's a great excuse to go out cold. We're coming out of a pandemic. Do you know what? That's it. You've never had a better opportunity to reach out and go, we need to talk about hospice care because this is vital, and it's about you and your loved ones. Let's tell you how we're going to care for people. Yeah, but you're never going to know unless you go for it. there is an element of risk in this, and there are no guarantees from anyone that anyone can give you that says this will definitely work, because Carla, as you were saying, I think, you know, everyone's feeling really positive about stuff and wanting to, you know, deliver a, you know, have a happy Christmas and forget about COVID. Are they going to have money for charity? Is everyone going to rebook the 4 mini cruises around the Mediterranean that they missed out on, you know, over the last 2 years? You know, I don't know. What I do know is, unless we get out there and try it and do it properly, we're never going to know. And I would hate for any of us to get to, let's say, this time next year and go, oh yeah, didn't really reach out. Oh, other charities have been out with strong message. We didn't really do that. Maybe we should have done, you know. I know it's tough, Sally, because you've got to sell it, haven't you, internally, you know. But if you're ever going to do this, it's now. And get me involved. Bring me in. I've done this a couple of times. I've been in with the chief on a thing with the chief exec or the board of trustees, and I've been the mouthy brummy in the corner that's come right. Come on, then you got to do it. You know, I have my uses. Anyone else? Would anyone else like to share anything or ask anything? I'm taking that. Lucy, anything else we need to cover? I'm looking at you. No, shaking your head. Okay, guys. Right. I hope that was helpful. We're here to have that conversation with you. If you want to just talk to us about your own situation and pick a brain and ask a question, that's cool. Please drop us a line, hello@pebblebeachfundraising.com, and we'll get back to you straight away. We'll organize that. Again, if you have a look at the website, there's examples of campaigns on our website. The recording of this will be up on our website in, well, depending on how quick Lucy can turn it around.
This afternoon.
No pressure, Lucy, no pressure. So this afternoon, and it'll be up on YouTube as well. Also on our website, you'll see there's a number of other webinars, one from this time last year talking about Christmas 2020, which looks suspiciously like the one you've just seen, I have to warn you. But there's lots of others talking about lights and talking about pandemic response, that kind of thing. So if that's helpful to you, go and have a look at those. But don't be shy, get in touch, we're here to help, yeah? And if there's no obligation on that conversation at all, please get in touch, ask us how we can help and support, and we'll be honest with you and give you that information, yeah? Okay. Everyone, have a fab time. Go be brilliant. Be fantastic. Enjoy your summers, and we'll see you soon, okay? Take care now. Bye-bye.